You know, time is ticking. Biden's announcement comes just a few weeks before the Democratic National Convention.
So let's get an in-depth look now at what the Democrats need to do over the next 4 weeks. We're bringing in Scripps News Deputy Political Director Joe St. George, who has been working tirelessly for, I don't know, the last 8 months or so, George, following every twist and turn in this very twisty-turny election. Joe, let's start with this. We heard a lot of Democrats come out yesterday and say they support Vice President Harris. Does she have this locked up, or is there still a chance for some type of primary thing?
It's not locked up yet, although the realities are it will be very hard for anyone to challenge her just because of where we are in American politics and the political apparatus that she has as being an incumbent vice president currently, as opposed to, let's say, a governor or a senator. Yes, top Democrats have endorsed her. The Clintons, President Joe Biden. We saw California Governor Gavin Newsom, but not all top Democrats have endorsed her. We haven't heard from the governor of Michigan yet. We haven't heard from other key swing state leaders. So this isn't locked up, but I do think we're into this critical 24 to 48 hour period in which we're going to find out if this is really going to be a contested primary, almost like a mini primary these next 4 weeks or not. As far as what happens next, let's dust off the old rule book, shall we? This isn't necessarily unprecedented. Go back to the 1800s, early 1900s. The point of political conventions was for delegates to pick their party's nominee at the conventions. That changed in the latter half of the 20th century with the caucus system and the primary elections happening and delegates being pledged. But what Democrats will now be forced to do is turn to the delegates, who will then be tasked with voting for, in many cases, who they want. And that's how a new nominee will be chosen. A couple different ways they can do it. If it's a contested primary, they could wait until Chicago. Chicago would be messy then. It would be a divided, certainly the first few days of the convention in Chicago. Or they could meet virtually with the delegates, let's say a week before the convention or 2 weeks before the convention, hold a giant Zoom call with everybody and wrap this up so that the Chicago convention could be more a unified front for Democrats and against former President Donald Trump. We'll get more intel later this week, likely on Wednesday when the DNC Rules Committee meets, about what path is going to happen next. But truly a bombshell announcement over the weekend, first time since 1968 that an incumbent American president is not seeking re-election.
And Joe, let's talk about, so if Vice President Kamala Harris does become the choice, potential VP picks. We've heard a lot of names floated around. Mark Kelly, Shapiro, Andy Beshear. What happens then?
Yeah, let's pop on the screen if we can some of the leading candidates, although that list is expanding. Some people have said, boy, wouldn't it be nice if Governor Gavin Newsom was on a ticket? Well, Harris and Newsom are both from California. There's some legal issues there. Harris would probably have to declare D.C. her residency, but that's an easy fix potentially. I don't think you would put Newsom in that first tier of likely running mates for Harris because he's not from a swing state. And there is a lot of desire amongst top Democrats that I talk to for Harris to pick somebody like a Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona, who's proficient in border issues, which is a vulnerability for the Democratic Party, who has a compelling story. His wife, a former member of Congress, Gabby Giffords, was almost killed herself many years ago. Governor Shapiro of Pennsylvania is emerging because he is the governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and it's really hard to find a path to 270 electoral votes for Democrats without them winning Pennsylvania. So no surprise there. You don't need a degree in political science to understand why some of these names are being floated and why some others are not. Vice President Harris could wait until she's actually the nominee to name her running mate, or she could do this in quick order if she really wants to unify the party. I mean, we could get an announcement of a running mate as early as this week, potentially, if she wants to do it before any roll call vote happens. All options, as they say, remain on the table.
All right, Joe St. George live in Washington, D.C. Joe, always a pleasure to have you join us with your expertise. Thank you very much.